Danielle Emanuele here alongside Gareth Wheeler and Adrian Serioux in Montreal. Yes, we can finally say it, the words playoffs. Toronto FC will be taking on the Montreal Impact tonight at Stade Saputo. I have so many emotions. I'm nervous. I'm excited. What are you feeling right now?
And I'm sure the players are probably going through the same thing. If they weren't feeling this pressure, they'd be lying right now. This is a big occasion for Toronto FC and the players. They're coming into Montreal. Going to be the 6th time they're meeting this year. The last showing against Montreal wasn't exactly what they were looking for, but rest assured that Toronto FC is coming out with a new game plan, and Vanny is making sure that his team is prepped and ready to go for this big occasion.
Well, you look at the last time these two teams met on Sunday, Toronto FC controlled the tempo right out of the gate, but then Montreal regained that in the second half. Do you change anything if you're Greg Vanney?
Sure, but you don't let what happened on Sunday really overly affect what happens today, because this is the biggest game in club history. And what we've seen in the 2 other MLS Cup playoff games thus far, there's a different level of intensity. It's a different style of game, and Adrian could speak more to that because he's played in MLS Cup playoffs and MLS Cup finals. But just looking at this team, there's a couple adjustments that you make, because obviously Drogba's been the storyline here, but it's about limiting distribution to the star player, which is going to be key. And what Montreal does very well is they use their pace down the wings to then free up area and room inside the 18-yard box for Drogba to operate. So I'm looking at Jackson, I'm looking at Justin Morrow. They're going to be all important to shutting down that space and limiting the passing in the passing lanes that are available for Drogba to receive in dangerous areas.
Even more than that, communication. Everything is going to be important between Ahmed Kantari, Josh Williams, and Chris Konopka.
Oh, without a doubt. And listen, this is the thing. Mistakes happen in games. It's a game of error. There's going to be opportunities, especially with these high-profile players. They're going to find spaces and gaps to be clinical in front of the net. But let's try to limit those. Try to maintain these guys. There's a couple errors that they are making in games that are correctable. Now, if you could just limit those chances that these teams have and hope the goalie comes up with big saves, but on the other end, provide more goals. This might be a game where goals are happening. We could say that it might be a close game, but it could be 4-3. So now it's just a matter of Toronto FC making sure, and I said this last time, that they are clinical in front of the net, because it might be an occasion where they have to get more than Montreal.
And Adrian, playing in games like this, isn't it as much about intensity, just knowing your own individual responsibility, than coming up with a whole new tactical game plan this time of year?
Oh, without a doubt. And, you know, we look at Toronto FC and the kind of formation that they've lined up and the way they've approached games. But right now it's going to be fast, it's going to be furious. Montreal's coming out, they're feeling confident based on their last result, but Toronto FC has to come out with a new game approach. They have to say, okay, listen, we started off the game last showing in the first half quite well. Can we keep that same level of play throughout the entire 90 minutes? I don't know what Mauro Biello said to Montreal at halftime, but this is where you don't want Montreal coming out the way they did in the second half. So Toronto FC has to be, able to finish off games the same way that they have been starting them.
Let's also talk about the significance of this matchup. A Canadian team has never won a game in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's huge for both teams, and it's appropriate that the most staunch rivals are playing one another in the first round of the playoffs. So that obviously heightens things as well. And I think Toronto FC continues to feel disrespected, to tell you the truth, that they're being made out to be a team just featuring Sebastian Giovinco. Look, they have players that have played in the World Cup. They have full internationals. Michael Bradley's a star player. Josie Altidor's a star player. And the playoffs are the time where the stars come to shine. I'm looking for massive performances from both Michael Bradley and Josie Altidor today. I saw Michael in the elevator yesterday. The intensity in his eyes, the emotion in his face. He's ready to go, and I look for him to be the key player to watch for both teams today. Michael Bradley has the ability to dictate the tempo and the flow of this game. I want to see if he brings it today.
Who are your players to watch?
I got to go with Gareth there. I look at the teams and what they have in the midfield, and, you know, we look at Giovinco and Drogba, but if you look at how teams are building up play through the middle of the park, I think that's where it's really going to be beneficial for either team. For Toronto FC, Giovinco, I'd like to see him facing up, and I talked about this yesterday. He has to be facing the goal. Whenever he has his back to the net, that's where teams are able to shut him down. So make sure he's able to possess the ball in open spaces where he's able to turn quickly and face opponents, go 1v1 and create a lot of things.
I think it's crazy because playoffs started last night. LA Galaxy already sent home. The New England Revolution were knocked off by DC United. So what will happen tonight when TFC takes on the Montreal Impact? You will have to find out. As you can see, it's very gusty here tonight. Once it kicks off, it's expected that the temperatures will drop to 4 degrees Celsius and winds could get up to 55 kilometers. So that can make a difference in ball control and all other factors in the game. So make sure you tune in on television, TSN 1, 4, and 5 at 7 o'clock. And if you can't get to a television, you can tune in on TSN 1050 with Gareth Wheeler and Adrian Serioux having the call.